trying to grow to 150 is you've got to be out there with those big live events and create enough cash flow that you can then put it into paid advertising as well as the events. And the schools that we see that grow pretty big, usually they don't let go of the community outreach with elementary schools, the live events, and so forth. What they end up doing is they end up hiring people to do that stuff and developing a sport team to do that stuff so that they're not personally having to do those things, but a next tier of people are doing those things for them, if that makes sense.
One of the things that it seems the most obvious, but it's the least done with our members. And our $1 million schools are doing it, but our newbies and some of the people that have been with us who are having trouble getting enough leads or enough enrollments, they aren't doing it. And that is build your marketing Parthenon into a yearly marketing plan. And the way you do that is you take those three areas that I talk about, that you have to have 5 to 7 marketing ideas in each one of them. And you have your external events, you have your internal events, and then you have your internet marketing. And you go through and you start planning out your month, not June 1st to plan out June. You have to have your marketing plan for June no later than May 15th to have your things lined up. Well, the best way to do it is whatever you did this month, you can do again. 90% of them, you can do it again. It might not be the next month, it might be 2 or 3 months, but you go ahead and you schedule it. And now you're starting to fill up your marketing calendar. And when you fill up that marketing calendar and put this in writing with capital letters, because it happens every time. You do 15 or 20 things every month, you're going to have 300 students. You will be $1 million school if you get a 300 student value. It's that simple. But even though it is, people do the big things and they don't do the little things. The big things, of course, they show up at the class and they teach the class and they make their calls and they do those day-to-day things, but they forget about the intangibles that you have to do to make sure that you have your marketing lined up. And every time I hear a school that I have to have a call with that has a problem, either their growth isn't going up or they're not getting enough enrollments, they're losing more than they're getting, 99% of the time, they haven't done any marketing. And they come up with an excuse, because obviously you don't need an excuse if you do it. You've got to figure out how to do all those things and just keep repeating them. Christian, with Jason's school, raise your hand there, Christian, so they see who you are. In our $1 million schools, they're doing birthday parties. They're lining them up. They have 2 or 3 every weekend. It's not one birthday party every 2 or 3 months. They're doing 2 or 3 birthday parties every weekend. Jason is doing, he even had to start doing them on Sunday because he had such a request for them. And so what he did, he was paying his part-time staff to come in on Sunday, and they were running the parties on that day. So you got to do what you got to do to get to where you want to be. Everybody's looking for the easy thing. I want to show up at the school at 3:00 and then teach the classes and then expect that it better be $1 million school. It's not going to happen. You've got to plan your marketing out and fill up your calendar with 15 to 20 things. And they have to be from all 3 sources, because one month one will hit, the next month the other one will hit, next month the other one will hit, and sometimes 2 of them will hit, or sometimes 3 of them, and you'll be like Scott, who gets 112 or 110 enrollments in less than 6 weeks. But if you keep doing it, it's going to work. And the proof is in the pudding. The schools that have done all that and figured out how to do that, and not just listen to these many ideas that we're giving you, and then that idea goes here and comes out the other ear, and then you never even write it down and start putting it to a calendar. I mean, I could probably go through every school that's on this meeting right now and say, show me your marketing calendar for June. And they're going to go, oh, well, we don't have a calendar. I've got a couple things planned. We have a back to school something coming up in August. They always want to say what they have coming up a couple months or a month later, rather than what's going on this month. So if you don't have already 15 or 20 things going on this month, you're dragging your feet. And if you aren't getting right now with where we are, we're at the 18th, we've got to already be filling up our July. Everything we did in May and June, we can probably do at least 80% of those again in July. So make sure you start filling up your calendar. And I guarantee you, when you do that, magic things happen. All of a sudden, you're drinking from that fire hose. And I know some of you, when you hear people complain, man, we had so many intros, I didn't even know how to handle them. And you're going, oh, boo-hoo, shut the fuck up. You know, I don't have any, and you're complaining you have too many. You got to do what you need to do to have that. I call it the faucet. And you're filling up your bucket, and your bucket is full of your leads. And how many faucets do you have? Well, there's one from internal events, there's one from external events, and there's one from the internet. And if one of them's dripping, it's not going to get you many leads. If the faucet's turned off, you'll get zero. So turn those faucets on all three of those full blast, fill up your bucket. And then all we have to do to convert those leads is plug the holes in the bucket. The holes in the bucket are, you got all 100 leads, but you only got 40 appointments. Okay, you had a big hole in your bucket. You should have got more appointments. I got 80 appointments, but then only 30 came in for the intro. Well, I've got a hole in my bucket. See, that tells you where you need to patch those holes and what you have to do to fix them. And if we don't track that stuff, we can't fix it.
Yeah, and something I would suggest everybody do, Master Smith, all the time is to keep that marketing checklist, you know, on the wall or on the desk. And let me remind you what I'm talking about here. We've posted this any number of times. I can repost it again. I think we have it actually pinned to the top of the 6-week group, so it's the first thing that you see there. But you know, to go through that marketing checklist all the time. This is not all inclusive, but it's a good start. And you know, rule number one is always, you mentioned 3 different groupings, but always have 20 different things going on, right? So always have 20 different things going on. And once you have some budgets for it, we want to get you using link selling, engage for social media ads for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and mostly Facebook. And it's useful to get a good website set up and be buying Google pay-per-click and so forth. Rev Marketing does a good job with that, and we can walk through the different pieces. But until you get to that point, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have 20 different things going on, starting with the live external events that Master Smith was just talking about as your first highest priority. And it's always useful to have internal referral events, but the internal referral events that work the best are the pizza party or the birthday party idea. That's what you were talking about with Jason Purcell, and they've got that going well enough that they can have a complete staff that does, you know, birthday parties. And they've got a solid, not perfect, but a solid conversion rate to appointments and a solid conversion rate through to the point that they're getting, what would you say, Master Smith, 12 to 15 enrollments, I would guess, a month from birthday parties. And, you know, and probably they could double that with tightening some pieces there. But when you go through this checklist, you know, go through this stuff. I mean, the first section here is 2 big buddy events per month, systematically hosting pizza parties, scheduling birthday parties. That's the stuff that we were talking about there. Inviting and requiring friends at the Bell graduation, especially the early ones. And a lot of times we think that, our advanced students are going to bring a bunch of referrals. Well, your advanced students tend to have all their friends are already in the school, or the friends that are in the school are tired of hearing them talk about it. It's the newest enrollment you did that's mostly likely to bring up, several friends down. That's why we've got to have mom and dad for kids, have mom and dad join in the lesson when they come in for the first class. And then that's why we've got to sit down and talk to them about who in their elementary school, who in their other activities, who at their daycare, who in their neighborhood they'd like to have join them. But you want to get those referrals when they enroll, not think you're going to wait for a year or something like that. So this next thing is the family enrollments, requiring both parents to take the introductory class, having not have kids classes, but have family classes. Basically actively encouraging all of the parents to enroll early on. And then you kind of kick it off and start it with having a family month at the school and hand every parent the uniform and say, hey, go get out there. So at least it looks like you have a lot of parents on the floor with the kids. And then we get into the more grassroots stuff, or sometimes I refer to this as guerrilla marketing. But I always start with, let's start at the school and take a step out the door, and then 5 foot, and then 10 foot, and keep kind of working our way out of the front of the school and say, what are the opportunities that we're missing here? Is this someplace where we could have the big inflatable out on the front of the school? Could we have A-frame signs on the sidewalk? Could we have a like a real estate brochure holder? Could we have that on the front window and have flyers in that? Can we have signage on the front windows that includes an offer and a QR code, a phone number, and a website? And by the way, nowadays I would have a QR code on everything because COVID, if anything, it taught people how to use QR codes. But window clings, if you don't know what that is, that's the vinyl artwork that you can put on the windows. We see a lot of schools. Matt Smith was Marty tripled his walk-in traffic just by doing really nice graphics on the front windows of the school that attracted attention and brought people in. Our Thornton school, as some of you have seen, I keep trying to talk them into putting a TV in every window because they have a very busy shopping center, very busy parking lot. It's not a lot of walk-by traffic, but a lot of drive-by traffic. So anything that they could do to attract attention that way, especially at night, would be useful. A rotating banner on the top of the building, a summer offer, a back-to-school offer, and so forth. And by the way, all this stuff, whether it's rack cards, bandit signs, banners on the school, it's useful to change them every 6 or 8 weeks. So if I go from it has a white background to a yellow background, it looks different. If I change the rationale for the offer, it goes from being a summer offer to a back to school offer, a New Year's offer, and so forth. That helps. But in all cases, I try to just change the color scheme a little bit, keeping our logo type and so forth consistent. But I'll again go from a white background to a yellow background, and then something else, go from black letters to red letters or something, all keeping it readable, but just something new attracts people's attention. And we can do the same thing with bandit signs and rotate something that looks different every 6 or 8 weeks with rack cards and so forth. But this VIP on the sidewalks, some of you are on very busy areas. You could hire a high school girl or a college girl, give her a clipboard, give her a little training on the script, and have her up and down the sidewalk out in front of your school, have her in the parking lot out in front of your school, have her, Matt Smith, I joke about again that Thornton school, the previous owners who were franchisees who ran it into the ground. One time there's an Italian restaurant at the end. They went down on Friday during lunch hour and they made 35 appointments. It was such an effective idea, they never did it again.
And they only did that after you just was hounding like 3 weeks in a row. You haven't done it yet. You haven't done it yet. And maybe for some of our newer members that don't know what that is, maybe explain what the VIP on sidewalks means, what you do.
Yeah, I mean it's the lowest leverage, highest labor thing you can do, and yet it works fine. Is you go out with a clipboard with information sheets with guest passes, and you tap people on the shoulder. And I mean, the script is fairly easy. Hey, we have the martial arts school here, and we're offering 2 free weeks of lessons and a free uniform. Is that something you'd be interested in? Yes, no. Sometimes they say, tell me more about it. And you have the conversation just like an outbound lead call would be. And by the way, I can train a vivacious, outgoing 16-year-old to do this, and I can compensate them based upon how many intros actually show up at the school. And again, if I'm in a completely dead area, I'm in a warehouse district where there's no traffic whatsoever. What I would do is I'd put people out at the shopping center. Sometimes at a enclosed mall, I can rent a kiosk and do it. It's the same idea. Um, but if I'm in a busy shopping center or next to a busy restaurant, I can just put somebody standing on the sidewalk in front of them, talk to everybody who comes and goes, and I'm going to get 9 no's for every yes, and for every yes that I get a lead and make an appointment for, I might get half of them to show up. But if I talk to 100 people a day, I've got 10 appointments and 5 intros a day. That's certainly worth the effort. And it does burn people out pretty quickly. But if I, found excited high school kids that I could put out there for a month and then get another one, or college kid, or hire interns, I can work that really effectively. This next point is the
Uh,
rack cards.
before we get on,
Mhm.
I want to say one more thing about the VIP, because it's almost like doing a booth. The script is so easy, but there are so many people that are very shy just to approach somebody, whether it's at a booth or in a shopping center. And the line that we always used is when we're stopping them, we're saying, "Hey, how you doing? We're from such and such. We're doing a special promotion to show people the benefits of martial arts. It's 2 weeks free. You get 2 weeks free and a free uniform, no obligation, just to show people the benefits of martial arts, that it's not just self defense, but confidence and discipline." And you kind of go through a few of those benefits. And then you say, "Would you be interested?" And that's all you have to say. It's that simple. And any center, there's people walking by, and most people that are in the center, it's even easier than a movie theater, because at the movie theater sometimes they're late for the movie, or they're trying to get to the movie, or trying to get popcorn or whatever. But in the shopping center, people are usually shopping, that are doing, mostly people at the shopping centers, half of them are window shopping. They're not even buying anything, so it's not necessarily they're in a hurry. So don't miss out on that one little thing. And when you finish this, Master Oliver, I sent you a text that Sherry sent me that I thought would be very uh, helpful for the members to see. It's a lucky kung fu a coin game that they're playing at the school. And after you finish here, if we could take a few minutes and have her explain what she's doing on that. And
Yeah, Siri, all that kind of stuff. Don't use text with us, but put it in the circle group. Uh, uh, so
well,
what we want to do is
you could
always
put it in the circle. I wanted her to put it in the circle group, but I wanted to talk about it
sure,
at the meeting today if we have time.
sure. Um, yeah, we have a few people who text us stuff, or they email me things, and then I never get back to them. And half the time, or more than that, well, if you email me, 98% of the time I don't see it. That circle group for everybody is the place to funnel all this kind of stuff. And if you have something that's let's say confidential enough or embarrassing enough that you don't want a small group of our other clients to see it, give Bob a call, and he can put create a time for us to talk directly. But otherwise, use the circle group for that stuff. Yeah, the next thing I was going to go through in this marketing checklist is the rack card idea. And this is, there's two different versions of this. There's lead boxes, and lead boxes are exactly what they sound like. They're just those, drawing entry boxes. And usually you put something on there like enter here and win a free year. And everybody who enters gets 2 free weeks of lessons. And they give you their name, address, and phone number, fill out the box, and you go collect them. Those work as well now as they ever worked. Um, what we shifted to mostly is using what's called rack cards, which is a trifold brochure holder. And, that's the first thing I did years ago. And I had copied the June reformat for a trifold brochure. One of the first marketing things I did is I printed 10,000 trifold brochures and ordered a bunch of brochure holders and put them out in all of the shopping center merchants that we were in and across the street and so forth. Same idea 42 years later. But typically what we do is it's a third of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, full color on cardstock, hence rack card rather than brochure. But a trifold brochure would work just as well. It just, the cards are easier to manage and they stand up straighter and they don't get, there, you can put more of them in the holder. The difference between lead boxes and rack cards is rack cards, they pull out the card and if they're interested, they respond. So they scan the QR code or they call the phone number or they go to the website. The nice thing about lead boxes is a lot of people who aren't going to pick up the phone and call you are going to fill it out hoping to win a free year. So you've got leads. Now they're not very high quality leads. But you can generate hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of leads in a month. For a while, we just got more efficient with higher leverage activity. But for a while, years ago, I had a little boiler room, meaning I had 6 phone lines, 6 people working outbound calls. I had one full-time person putting out and collecting leads from rack cards across multiple locations. We figured out that Baskin Robbins and Dairy Queen were our 2 best locations. But the idea was just to have hundreds of locations out and then service them every 4 to 6 weeks. Worked like a charm, but it was a lot of labor. Rack cards, it's just as much labor, maybe a little less to get them placed. But then, you get a lot less leads, but the people who contact you are much more curious. So that's one source. The other is, and all these things we can spend a lot more time on, charitable fundraisers on pizza boxes and through other merchants. I've done this where we did McDonald's tray liners and ad cards, postcard size ads that went into every McDonald's bag at the drive-throughs. In this case, raising money for the Ronald McDonald House. Done the same thing with Chick-fil-A, with Burger King. We've done the same thing with Domino's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut, where it went on top of the box. In almost all cases, in some version of a fundraiser where they were a co-sponsor. So our standard go-to was, it's a 4-week program, a free uniform for $47. 100% of the money goes to Children's Hospital. And we would do the printing and provide it to the merchant and they would just, the flyer distribution. I have probably passed out, what would you guess, Master Smith, 10 million flyers? I can't even hesitate to guess. When we printed them, we were printing 100,000 at a time, pushing these things out. To be fair, it's across multiple locations. And when they were personalized with Domino's or with McDonald's, we would figure out what the numbers that they needed and put their logos and so forth on it. But the number of places you can distribute this stuff, and again, it's much cheaper than putting a live stamp on an envelope and mailing to people. It doesn't have quite the impact of that, but the cost to us was just the cost of printing the flyers. So a couple of pennies a piece, and we would get hundreds of thousands of these out. And again, we can go further into that, but the next is these bandit signs, and they're called bandit signs because they're pretty much universally illegal. In a more urban environment. Matt Smith, we were just in New York City, and one of the things, like in Times Square, you saw people with clipboards and doing what we were talking about with VIP all over the place. And by the way, the big brands do that. A lot of times when they're doing a launch, whether it's a new energy drink or something else, or if it's a clothing brand, a lot of them go hire a bunch of college kids and put them out, doing free sampling and so forth. Mrs. Fields cookies, that was their number one way that they would grow the restaurant is they were mostly in shopping mall locations. They put somebody out with samples of cookies and give away cookies, and that was the number one thing they would do. Um, I believe Chick-fil-A in the malls also that was their number one promotional tool. So a lot of this stuff is not anything new. It's just you've got to gear up to do it. Um, but getting the bandit signs out, which a comparable is the 11 by 17 posters, where you can put them on telephone poles, put them on, different places that people post flyers. We would do 11 by 17, which is just double a normal 8.5 by 11, and have it be as a charitable fundraiser. Then we get all the merchants in our area putting them out. So all the merchants in our area would put them on the windows, tied to the charitable fundraiser. And then we would do rack cards that we would put on the counter, and then we do flyers that they would put in the bags or put on the pizza boxes or put on the trays or whatever it would be. And so you'd have a triple hit in the restaurants where it was going out for carry out, it was in the window, and it was on the counter. I already touched upon the VIP conversation, but the other point here is flyers out constantly. I always made sure every school had at least 10,000 flyers in sitting in their storage room. And what we went to also is Post-it notes, where you can print oversized Post-it notes where they're sticky. And if we had 5 helpers in class and 3 students, which that happens sometimes, especially over summer, all the helpers would be out, putting Post-it notes on the driver's window, or they'd be putting flyers on the cars at the Target parking lot or the Walmart parking lot or the shopping mall, or they'd be organizing and going door to door and doing door hangers in the immediate neighborhood. I mean, and sometimes if we had extra helpers there, let's say I had a bunch of teenagers, I would divide up the list and put them on the phone calls and say, okay, we got an hour. Let's have a little contest so you can make the most appointments. Whoever makes the most appointments, I'm buying your dinner tonight. And sure enough, it would always be one person made 12 appointments and 3 of them made 1. Because the differentiation is who's willing to dial and have the conversations rather than find an excuse not to do it. But I won't go through all of this. This next one is live event marketing. It's what we've talked about all the time. But Matt Smith, let's shift to Sherry and you and talk about this other thing you were talking about before we run out of time.
I emailed it to you. Can you share that email? Your email?
Okay. Sherry, why don't you start so I don't have to go look for this.
Well, I just created I got inspired by a post that Heidi had made earlier, and I just created a coins game. It's called Lucky Kung Fu Coins Game.